So welcome back. In this video, we are going to discuss about the partitioning schemes that we can apply for Linux and how we can partition or create the partitions. Okay, so this video is just going to show you how you can partition and how we can create the partitions. The partitions for Linux you can create while the Linux installation takes place, and that's the usual way, but there are different scenarios that you can come across. So I'm going to discuss about the possible ways how we can partition it, and I'm going to demonstrate this interesting tool which you can see on the screen, which can be used for partitioning. Let us start with this. So first of all, what exactly is this on my screen? This is something called as gparted. It's a tool that helps you do partitioning of your hard drive which is available. Fine. Now the very interesting aspect is gparted comes as an simple application which is there for Windows, Linux, and other operating systems. You can go to gparted and download it, and it provides a graphical interface which you can see in the background. The most interesting aspect is gparted provides a live CD USB. So you could download the gparted live USB or CD ISO, and you can boot from that, and with that you can directly work on your system irrespective of the operating system that is installed over there. Okay, so that is there. So I have booted from this gparted thing, and the GUI has started. So this gparted basically has a Linux system, which is you can see Debian symbol is there in the background, and it is running that. So here what I have done is I'm demonstrating a typical scenario where you can see that this is our hard drive. As it shows, our hard drive is dev SDA. In the previous video we had discussed, this is dev SDA, or it could be the first NVMe or whatever device is there. Could be there. If more devices would have been there, you would see their representation over here. But in general, in today's scenario, in your laptops or computers, you have one hard drive, and most probably you have Microsoft Windows installed on it. So the thing is that what you're going to see is a scenario something like this, a generic scenario where Windows is installed. So the first partition is a EFI partition, nothing to do with Windows or Linux or any other operating system. This is used by UEFI BIOSes. Fine. So it requires this partition. It has some boot related stuff. Let's not get into the details. It is required by the BIOS. Fine. So basically, this contains the bootable code or something which is required for booting of your operating system. Fine. So this you will see over there. If you are having a UEFI BIOS, generally the latest laptops are going to have that. If you have the old style BIOS, then this partition won't be there. Then Microsoft usually has a reserved partition. Fine. What is the purpose? They only know it's a reserved partition. Then you are going to see one partition which is the data partition. Now here this partition is 24 GB, or the maximum size has been allocated to this. Fine. This is on our virtual hard drive which was 25 GB. So here this partition is your largest partition, the data partition, and this is going to be your C colon. When you are going to boot into Windows, this is what will be your C colon. Then Microsoft usually has this recovery partition. Fine. And some is unallocated over here. So this kind of scene you are going to see on your computer when you are going to start booting with Linux. Fine. When you start installing Linux, and you are going to come across the partitioning part over there when you want to install Linux. So what is to be done if this is the kind of scenario that you are having and you want to install Linux? So the first thing is we will need to shrink this partition and get some space from this partition. There is another possibility that there is one more data partition. If you have like C colon, D colon, E colon, multiple partitions are there, then usually the last one I would recommend is you delete that partition if it is big enough for your requirements. So, and then that free space we can use for installation of Linux. But if there is any other scenario you don't want to delete it, whatever is the last data partition which you can identify, usually these will be big. So C, D, E colon which is there, you can resize that partition. So we can right click on this and we can say resize the partition, and we can get some free space for Linux from there. Now, before you do any of these things, uh, this is a warning that is there, that you should back up your data whenever you are playing with your partitions or trying to change anything with your partitions. The tools are very mature and very good, but don't take the risk. Keep a backup of your data, then only do something with the partitions. Fine. So before you do anything, take a backup of your partition. Now, it would be better that you resize or delete the partitions from Windows itself if you are having Windows on your machine. Fine. So that would be the best thing. Resize it and you will have some free space. Then you start the Linux installation and make the required partitions on the free space that is there. So in this particular case, because this is a virtual machine that I have and these are some demo partitions, to replicate how it looks like on Windows, we have this C partition, and I'm going to resize this partition, and we will keep it is asking you want to resize this partition. So we will resize this partition to say free space following this would be, so I'm going to make it somewhat very small, or depending upon your requirement you make it somewhat like this. Let us say we'll give around 20 GB, so let's just type it over here. Okay, so we are saying we want 20 GB of free space that is there. Fine. Now the interesting part is that if there would had been data, it would allow you to resize from a particular up, it will only allow you to resize up to a certain limit. We are going to resize this partition, and now what we have is the free space, unallocated free space over here, and this is what we are going to use for our Linux partitions. Fine. So this is a basic step which you will be doing during the installation, or you will do it from Windows itself, and when you will come to the Linux part, you will have this unallocated space available for your Linux installation.